Retweet. Oh, hello.
Hello.
How is everybody doing for a Tuesday edition of The Slate? Are we ready, Matt LaMarca and birthday boy Gary and Thorne?
Hey.
I'm going to retweet the show right now so you don't yell at me.
Yeah. I was actually getting ready to text you and bully you because bullying works. I want everyone to know that watching out there, bullying works. So, Gary, you are how old today? 7 3/4?
Yeah. 7 3/4. I look really bad for my age.
I think you're great.
The alcohol mostly.
That's like leap year babies are literally the premise of the movie where Robin Williams is born as like a big adult. You know what I'm talking about? What's that movie called?
You're thinking of Benjamin Button.
Nope.
Brad Pitt, he starts old and goes young, and then the
I want to say it was called like Jack or something like that. But he he ages like 4 years for every year. So he's like an 8-year-old kid buying Playboys and stuff for his friends.
Yeah,
Dude,
I remember that one because it's funny how you mentioned that scene, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. Toys was a weird one for me, but it's oddly like I still enjoy it as an adult now. Kind of gets dark a little bit. Like the nice toys get destroyed. It's just real sad. Anywho, Gary, what's your favorite part of being a leap year baby?
Oh God. I guess I will say it's a decent icebreaker, or it's a nice thing to throw out there when you start a new job and they always do that stupid thing where it's just like, write 2 interesting facts about yourself. And it's like,
I love how you do that.
Here we go. I will say it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. The amount of questions you have to field about it. The amount of times I've heard someone be like, "Oh, so what are you, like 3 7/16?"
Yeah, that's us.
Version of this joke you can think of. I'm as old as I am. So it's been a very, very, very long run with this. I would much rather just have a normal birthday that came every year. But it occasionally comes in handy in an icebreaking capacity.
It's probably It's probably a bottom 10 birthday. I mean, like I would rather take that over being Christmas, like Christmas birthday.
Yeah, Christmas.
Yeah.
That's got to be
that's Jesus's birthday. You don't want that.
And look how he turned out. He died, man.
It's true, dude. 33. Isn't that how old you are now?
31.
Exactly how old I am.
Dude. Really, the market? Yeah, it's the age. Yeah, it's the age you died. All right. Well, anywho.
You never know where it's going to end up on this show.
That's what weird direction.
This was just important to start with because I discovered this ripping through stories on Instagram earlier, and I see Gary and being like, "Oh, it's like the anniversary of me being, the only child for 20 minutes. So what the hell is this?" Says, "I'm a leap year baby. I'm a twin." And his sister celebrates her birthday on March 1st. Gary is a February 28th guy.
Yeah, a lot of revelations today.
There is. She's much smarter than you.
In my relationship.
Anywho, I'm very happy to be here with both of you today. And I would like to start with, what did we say we're going to start with? NFL news, right? So the NFL scouting combine's going down. So we're about to sit here and listen to how large the hands of men are and how big and beefy and how many power reps they get in on the bench. But also you have some players being released, like what? Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is going to be released, right? Marcus Mariota is released, which please, Lamar Jackson, go to Atlanta. Please. Okay, so which team could use Leonard Fournette? Let's go, Gare Bear.
It's hard to just list off teams, I think. I think what he's going to end up being, like what most running backs at that age and seasoning, let's say, he's going to, he's not, I don't think he's like LaShawn McCoy yet, because I do think Fournette has proven the last couple of years he can still be a useful running back. Although, the second half of this season, some of that shine was starting to wear off. But we saw this with LaShawn McCoy. He basically was in his prime, and then 2 years later, he became a guy who just went team to team to team whenever there was a running back injured. I think he'll probably find a permanent home before the start of the season, and I don't think it'll be in a bell cow workload. That's kind of the crazy thing about Leonard Fournette. For the first 8 or 9 weeks of this past season, he was essentially operating with a work rate that was only paralleled by about 3 other running backs in the NFL. Like, he had about a 75% snap share on the Buccaneers, which that's just unheard of for running backs nowadays. So he's not going to be in an advantageous spot, or at least as advantageous a spot as he was last season. But he'll find a home as like a secondary back, and then I'm sure he'll become that guy who someone will get hurt in week 5 of the 2024 season. And it'll be like, they're bringing in Leonard Fournette to work out this week. And, that'll kind of be his life going forward. But like another 10 guys are going to get drafted at the position in 2 months. And then a bunch of undrafted free agent running backs are going to come in too. It's a young man's game. It really is.
I like him with the Dolphins, with your Dolphins, Garion, because I think Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are set to join Fournette as like on the free agent market here in March. So instead of paying for 2 veteran running backs, go get this dude under 30, man, who could still be a bruiser and should be plenty of running room there, man, provided by Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's speed.
Is Fournette younger than Jeff Wilson Jr.? I feel like Jeff Wilson Jr. is younger than Leonard Fournette, no?
Well, I'm still saying instead of paying for 2 veteran running backs, just pay for one. I think Fournette's like 28.
I'm sticking with another Florida team. I like the Orlando Guardians as a fit.
Here we go.
No, in all seriousness, Garion hit the point right on the head. Like, I don't understand why you would pay Leonard Fournette when you can get a guy who's 7 years younger or so for nothing, right?
Yep.
And when you're talking about depth reserve running backs, you want guys who are going to be special teamers and all sorts of things like that. I think the days of Fournette being like a meaningful contributor as part of a backfield are probably done. So he's not really going to go to the XFL. That was a joke, but I wouldn't, he's not somebody that I would be considering like drafting in fantasy in any sort of situation.
Yeah. What about Marcus Mariota? What does that move mean for the Falcons, Garion?
I mean, it's interesting where they sit and where the Panthers sit, because I think they're in very similar spots where they drafted a quarterback last season who, is each are very flawed. Obviously Ritter has his positives. I know some people even said he could be like a top 3 quarterback in that class. And it might turn out to just be a very weak class. That might be kind of the general consensus 3-5 years down the line when we look back at this. Matt Corral had some nice numbers at Ole Miss, but like I don't think he's like going to be a fantastic quarterback, or at least I wouldn't say it's a very, very high quality chance. But so, they've got a young quarterback coming into the second year, both these teams playing in a division where the quarterback position for every single NFC South team is just so open-ended and has so many question marks. If they want to go out and be players, because we're seeing this now, this will be like the 3rd or 4th consecutive season where there's going to be significant quarterback movement in the offseason. We know Derek Carr is going to find a home at some point. We don't know what's going on with Lamar Jackson. Like, we don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. Like, there are moves to be made. I don't know if Atlanta might be a more desirable location than Carolina, although maybe from like a roster construct perspective, I might lean Carolina a little bit more than I'd lean Atlanta. But yeah, if they want to be major players in the quarterback market, if they want to go out and try to get a Lamar Jackson or an Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if I think Rodgers might be just like Jets or Packers, but in any case, they could really kind of take a stranglehold on this division for at least the next 2 seasons. So
yeah,
it's a really interesting dynamic right now in that division.
I was going to say, Maddie, the NFC South, I want it so bad because I wanted to be like, that next Michael Vick there in that Atlanta Falcons uniform. But the NFC South is just so wide open now after Tom Brady's retirement. And all 4 teams, you look at them here too, Lamarca, are in some form of like rebuilding. So a landing spot of Atlanta for Lamar Jackson immediately catapults Atlanta to the top of the division, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that their philosophy at the quarterback position this offseason is going to be Lamar Jackson or bust. I think if they can get him, they will be more than happy to welcome him with open arms. And if they can't, I think they're okay with giving Desmond Ridder a chance to earn the job full time, regardless of what the Falcons end up doing, like cutting Marcus Mariota and saving, I think it was like $15 million in cap space, was just the right decision, right? Like they weren't winning necessarily with Mariota. The drop from him to Ritter is probably not going to be that steep. And the Falcons have serious cap space now. They're second in cap space. They trail only the Bears. And I want to say they have something like $66 or $67 million available to spend. So they've got plenty of holes, but I expect the Falcons to be pretty active in free agency, not necessarily even at quarterback, right? Like it might just be plugging up a bunch of holes throughout the rest of the roster. We've seen teams do that when they have quarterbacks on rookie deals. So if they can't get Jackson, I think they'll just kind of pivot to building the best roster that they can around Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, which one of the recent headlines are the Falcons are non-committal on Desmond Ritter at quarterback entering the NFL draft because they have the 8th overall pick, right? I think one of you guys said that. So they could choose to go with a quarterback, right?
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be. Look, we saw. I'm not sure if it's the most successful blueprint. It seemed better at the time, but we saw the Cardinals do this, right? Like Ritter didn't come with that exact same amount of prospect capital that the Cardinals had to use for both of their quarterback first-round selections. But yeah, nothing is sacred anymore in the NFL. Like just with the value that is given to you by having a capable starting quarterback on a rookie contract, you want to maximize the amount of years you can get out of that guy. So, you know, Ritter's already burned one of those years. And I don't think it's fair to say that, what did he get? Like 3 or 4 games towards the end of the season? Like that's not a fair enough sample to assess what his future value could be in this league. But if they just want to reset that clock one more time and go back at it with someone they consider to be a better quarterback prospect, teams are no longer looking at these things as sacred, where you have to give a guy 2 or 3 years. This stuff can happen really fast.
Yeah, and then you also had the Packers today were very non-committal on what the next step was going to be for Aaron Rodgers, and like if they wanted Aaron Rodgers back, as we'll keep the quarterback conversation going here. Every day that goes by, we get closer and closer to something happening. I don't know. Is there a simple 1-year solution here? Maddie, what do you see the end result being right now, especially as you're hearing the team's front office talk at the scouting combine in Indianapolis today?
Everything that the Packers are saying kind of is pointing towards Aaron Rodgers not being a part of their plans anymore, right? Like there was a report that they were done with him, and today you had the team saying that Jordan Love is a guy who is good enough to be a starter in the NFL. Like it seems like they are ready to move on. They're just kind of waiting for Aaron Rodgers to, I don't know, finish whatever cleanse ritual he has.
I think he's out.
Right,
so
make a decision.
Yeah, the reports where he was out of it like a few days ago.
Like he's out of his darkness retreat. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think that still the most likely scenario ends up with him either in New York with the Jets playing with their, you know, excellent defense, good young receiving core, or back in Las Vegas with his buddy Devontae Adams. I think at this point, the Packers are really doing everything they can to kind of push him out the door.
Yeah. They have to be so sick and effing tired of this, Gary, and like behind the scenes, like, you know, we're seeing, hearing one thing, but behind closed doors, they're probably like, get this man out of here, except he's due like $1 bajillion. And I know the two sides, Gare, are trying to come, they at least hope to come to some decision before free agency kicks off on March 15th. That's going to be a crucial date for them.
Yeah. It's such a weird situation. I mean, you think about the face of the Packers franchise the past 30 years has either been Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, and not exactly the most like media friendly, PR savvy pair of quarterbacks you could possibly ask for various different reasons. I mean, again, Rodgers has won 2 MVP awards in the last 3 years. And I think you're right, though. I do think just the actions and the drama and the baggage that he brings. And again, it helps that he's almost 40 years old. Like at a certain point, this will just have to stop. His play will fall off a cliff. We just saw Tom Brady, who was seemingly unassailable. We were like, there's no way. There's been no signs. This wouldn't happen. It happens at some point. So I think the Packers, while they can't just come out and say, we're so tired of this, it'll just be simpler when Jordan Love is our starting quarterback, record be damned. I think if you polled the organization and got their brutally honest answers with some anonymity, a lot of people would just be ready to get a fresh start going here.
In the association, Maddie, new face, new team, as we're about to experience that a lot in the NFL here in the offseason. But you got Kevin Durant making his son's debut tomorrow. What are your expectations for this dude?
I expect him to do what he's done his whole career and probably his whole life, which is just provide really efficient scoring at all three levels, right? I mean, if you look at the numbers historically, the guy is one of the most efficient high volume scorers in league history. You know, he gets his buckets and he does it by shooting over 50% from the field, over 40% from 3-point range, and around 90% at the free throw line. And playing with a guy like Chris Paul, who can get him the ball, a guy like Devin Booker, who will attract some attention from opposing defenses, like, it's not going to surprise me at all if this guy just steps right in and starts doing what he always does. I mean, he basically missed 2 years before that humongous playoff series with the Nets when he went toe to toe with Giannis and the Bucks. Like, I just don't think the guy is a human at this point. He's just a robot designed to get buckets in the most efficient way possible.
All right, Care Bear. Suns plus 230 to win the West. Biggest threat in your eyes, is it the Nuggets?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of weird how I'm looking at betting the West right now. I think just because it's not just fun to come on these shows and be like, yeah, take the Suns. They've got the most talent and they've got the worst odds. But I think the Nuggets, the thing that I keep coming back to with Denver is they're the only team in the West where I can definitively say, I know what seed they're going to be when this thing shakes out in a month and a half. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the West. Time after time, they've yielded and wielded this home court advantage they have in Denver very well. I mean, by net rating, they are the best home team in basketball by a pretty substantial margin this season. And that's been the case the season prior and the season before that. Like, we have such a large sample of Denver being amazing at home. So the fact that they can pretty much, I mean, they've already pretty much locked up home court advantage in the Western Conference against anyone they would possibly face, even the Suns in a potential Western Conference final. It does make me think there's some value there. But aside from that, I might just start taking some darts because with the way this is jumbled right now, there's so much uncertainty with how this seeding is going to fall that, you know, you could be a team like the Kings and think you've got, you know, home court advantage in the first round. You've got a top 4 seed locked up. And then suddenly you're staring at like the Mavericks or the Clippers or the Warriors in the first round. Like, it's going to be a bloodbath in that first round. And I guess hypothetically, the same thing could happen to the Nuggets. Like, they could lock up home court advantage and they'll have home court advantage in the first round and they'll face the Warriors. And that'll really stink if you're the Nuggets. So aside from Denver, I would just be taking long shots because it really just seems like the most wide open conference I can remember in the last decade.
I mean, the Lakers, realistically, Maddie, maybe the longest of long shots now just to make the postseason because of LeBron James' injury here. So they're still plus 1,500 to win the West on the DK Sportsbook. I don't know about that one, man, but they're also 9-point dogs tonight to the Grizzlies. So, Maddie, with the uncertainty with LeBron James, what are they saying? He's going to be out likely 2 weeks. They'll kind of reassess at that point. How do you like LA's chances now of making the playoffs? They're not even in the playoff picture right now.
I still like their roster. I think that they are much better today than they were at the start of the year. And this stretch here is really going to define their season, right? If they tank over the next 3 weeks without LeBron, then it's going to be very tough for them to come back and survive. But if they can tread water and play, you know, roughly 500 basketball, when LeBron comes back, I think they will still be live to, you know, get into the play-in tournament. And then they're going to be a team that very few teams are going to want to play. I just want to circle back to the Denver part of this.
Go ahead.
Like, I think a lot of people look at Denver and it's like, yeah, they're this great regular season team, but they can't win in the playoffs, right? Like, I've heard that multiple times. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably guilty of saying that myself at some point.
Oh, wow.
But
wow.
at this point, like I think first of all, we look back at what they've done. They haven't been at full strength in the playoffs for 2 straight years. And the last time that they had Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they made it to the Western Conference Finals. The NBA is a star-driven league, and I'm not sure that there's a better player in basketball right now than Nikola Jokic. Garion mentioned they're going to get the 1 seed in the West. They've won nearly 88% of their home games this season.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to have to come into Denver and win some games. And I just don't know if it's going to happen. I think that this is the year where Jokic puts to bed all of this talk about him, being a regular season superstar, but not a guy that can win games in the playoffs. So I've come full circle. I'm very much on Denver as being the best team in the West. And the fact that they're such significant underdogs when compared to the Phoenix, like that makes them a clear buy for me.
I mean, Gerber, they have to be like Jokic, those players, that city, that franchise has to be hearing that, oh, this is just a regular season squad. They can put up all the ridiculous stats and numbers in the regular season, but they can't make the NBA finals, which they haven't done since their final season in the ABA in 75-76, for crying out loud, man.
I mean, it's just tough. Like, I know this is like the conversation du jour with basketball analysis nowadays, but only one team in each conference can make the finals every year. Like, it's hard, man. And especially with some of these super teams lately, like Golden State has won 4 of the last 8 NBA championships. They've been in the finals a lot. That just, Denver's like a victim of circumstance, if nothing else. And I think Matt brought up an amazing point, which is, we talk about guys who get the moniker of like, a non-postseason performer, someone who struggles under the bright lights. Remember how good Jamal Murray was in the bubble? He was absolutely incredible. Like those games he was having against Donovan Mitchell, say what you will about the bubble playoffs. And maybe if that's like the best example you have of playoff performance, maybe you do have to put a small asterisk there or something. But I mean, he was incredible, and they didn't have him last year, and they have him this year. They have Michael Porter Jr. They've got Bruce Brown. It seems like they did a decent job at the trade deadline. Like, I know it was really under the radar, but they shored up their backup center position, which is another thing they had to do. So I just think there's almost like a malaise when it comes to the Nuggets. People are just sort of over them. And yeah, I think they shouldn't be slept on because the way they've locked up that 1 seed, I think it was more important that they did it than anyone else in the Western Conference did it, because they can take the most advantage of having home court advantage.
All right,
can I give you my favorite Jokic stat, by the way?
Yes, please do.
You may have heard this one, but he has 26 triple doubles now for the year.
Yep.
The Nuggets are 26-0 in those games.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
It's not like he's out there getting empty calorie stats, like we all kind of laughed at Russell Westbrook's triple double and him waving off Steven Adams to gobble up rebounds. Like Jokic is out there doing what he needs to do to get his team to win. And I don't think that there's a player on the planet right now that can stop him.
Nope. I totally agree with you. Grizzlies are 5.5 games behind the Nuggets in the Western Conference. The Grizzlies hosting the Lakers tonight. Any bet you like in that game, Gare Bear? We're going to see the Lakers take the floor here without LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously tough for the Lakers without LeBron James. I think D'Angelo Russell is he doubtful for this game or questionable? I think he might be doubtful. So down quite a bit of scoring punch. The Grizzlies have been one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. They've been one of the better defensive teams. They've got a really great home record. Although they have come back down to earth in some of the metrics the last 6 or 7 weeks. I still think this line's just too big. It's like a really big number. And again, I get the Lakers have had injury woes, but I go back to Matt's initial point about the Lakers, and look, I think one of these might hit now and one of these might not, considering the injury woes. But my 2 favorite bets at the All-Star break when it came to win totals in the second half of the season were the Knicks over and the Lakers over. And I think the Lakers, it really was just they went out and complimented their core like they had to. They got 3-point shooters. Jared Vanderbilt was a really under the radar and very, very good player who's now part of this rotation. I just think they have so much more depth than they had at this time 3 weeks ago. And I still think that depth is enough, even without some of their top line guys tonight, where, this number should be like 6.5. The fact it's 9, it's just too big.
Oh, you got to be feeling good about the Knicks. What do they have? 3 wins in a row? 4 wins? 5?
I think it's 5 now. If you go back before the All-Star break.
Yeah. Well, that's a good call on your part. Maddie, any bets stand out to you either in that Lakers-Grizzlies game, or you can go anywhere else on the board?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Gary, and I think 9 is a little bit too many. I mean, I know it wasn't all that long ago, but Anthony Davis, the last time LeBron missed a stretch, was absolutely incredible, averaging like 35 points a game when LeBron was sidelined. So I think he'll pick it up. Losing D'Lo, he's a big name, but I don't think it's that huge of an absence in reality. Like, I think that if Anthony Davis plays the way he's capable of playing, the Lakers can keep this game competitive. My favorite bet, though, is it might be a little bit chalky here, but I'm taking the Warriors laying 5 at home against Portland. I don't understand. It seems like Portland has all of a sudden decided that they're trying to tank, but nobody told them that their record is too good for them to tank at this point. Like, they're trying all these different weird things. And I know Dame went off for, 71 in his last game, but they're trying all these weird things. And I don't get it. They're allowing, they've been the worst defensive team in the league over their last 6 contests. And for all the Warriors' flaws, they're still a really, really good home team. They're winning roughly 78% of their games in San Francisco this year. So I like their chances of winning this game against a Portland team that frankly seems confused about what's going on at the moment.
Dude, how impressive was that the other night though with Dame? That was sexy, dude. When incredible. He really is like that. It almost feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's another one of those like Nikola Jokic types where it's like, oh, dude, you're just putting up all these numbers like regular season, and then like, what do you do in the postseason?
Well, he's had some big postseason moments. Like he had the shot over Paul George, which is just like, that's going to be an iconic. But again, you go like, that's a first round moment. I get how you can undercut that pretty quickly.
Thank you.
But he's also he made the Western Conference Finals at one point. Like it was a really overmatched team against the Warriors, but
yeah, because he was
just playing in the same era as Steph Curry, right? Like he's a very comparable player to Steph. He's just slightly worse at everything. So, and his teams have been much worse than the Warriors have been. So like it just kind of pushes him to the backside a little.
Like literally, Steph had Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson on the wing, and Dame had Al Farouk Aminu and Mo Harkless. Like that's the story of Dame Lillard's career.
Mo Harkless. Sorry.
Oh man, I missed your singing, Big Sexy, so much. Gary, anywhere else you want to go on the NBA board tonight for a bet?
No, I don't really have anything else. If we got 5 minutes, I got some MLB futures.
We have 3 minutes actually right now. Give me your favorite MLB future, and LaMarcus, start thinking of one in your head.
I just like this one because it's like a little narrative based, and I think this is the time of year to have some fun with the baseball props. I will say MVP in baseball is becoming less and less about the narrative. Like it's really now who has the best stats, and I'm okay with that. I think that's the way it should be. But if ever there was a narrative to like get behind, the mother of all narratives, if the Twins come out and win the American League Central, and let's say win 90, 92 games, something in that range.
Don't do it.
Carlos Correa, guys.
Oh, okay. That wasn't where I thought you were going.
Can't do Byron Buxton. No, we're not doing Buxton anymore. We're off the Buxton MVP train. Although Correa, not much better in terms of track record of health. But again, think about the narrative that could be constructed and think about how much it will be talked about if Carlos Correa, who is very capable of having an amazing season, like this is someone who the last 2 years in the American League is 4th among all position players in WAR. Like he's already ticking the advanced stat boxes that you need to tick to win MVP. This isn't far-fetched. But after being punted to the curb by 2 different organizations during the course of the offseason, there were literally people who aren't like, they're sports fans, but not baseball fans, who are going to tune into a game on opening day and be like, oh, it was the Twins. He went back to the Twins, eh? I thought he was on the Mets. Like, this is going to be so disorienting for people. Like, he was the story of the offseason. And that the Twins, I think, are undervalued in general. I think all the projection systems love them. And I agree. I think they did a great job at like bolstering their sort of like the 16 through 26 aspect of their 26-man roster, which is so important during a 162 game regular season. He's 35-1 for American League MVP. Yeah. I just think if the Twins have success, he's already one of the best players in the American League in a vacuum. With this narrative that is now like ground swelling beneath him, I just think it's all there. I think that number is a little too long.
I think what we have here is a race for the division title between the Guardians and the Twins. But Jose Ramirez plus 1,500 atop a list of several big names from the division with decent MVP odds. Buxton plus 3,000. You've already mentioned Correa plus 3,500. Hold on. What did Cody just say? 1 minute. Go ahead, LaMarca.
I'm going. This might seem like a crazy one. LA Dodgers to miss the playoffs.
Yeah. Ooh, dude. Big news today with them losing their shortstop for the season.
And just you look at this roster, this is not the Dodgers of the past decade. Their pitching isn't nearly as deep. It's unproven. They lost Trey Turner, didn't bring in anything to replace him. They've got not nearly the same intimidation factor all across the roster. And with the Padres breathing down their throat, with 3 really good teams in the NL East, I think postseason spots could be at a premium this season. So I will take 5-1 on the Dodgers to miss the playoffs.
Also, you can right now on the DKSB.
Here we are.
To have more wins head to head than the Dodgers at plus money for the Yankees. Take that right now because it will happen.
Dodgers to make playoffs. Yes. Minus 700. No, plus 500. On the DK Sportsbook. Okay. All right. That's it. We got to go. Otherwise, Cody is going to yell at us in Slack. Also, happy birthday again, Gary and LaMarca. Great seeing you. And congratulations to producer Eamon. He got engaged on Friday, and he's tweeting out pictures from that event. And that's it, everybody. Have a great day.